thing to do here for this program. Appreciate you all being here. My name is Tom Turbiville, and been around here for about 40 years, Bryan College Station, and matter of fact, had about a 3.5-year stint with the A&M Athletic Department as Sports Information Director. But today I'm here as a proud member of the Historic Preservation Committee for the City of College Station, and really enjoy doing that. And matter of fact, the first meeting I attended, they put me in charge of finding guests for the programs for the year of 2024. So that just tells you don't be late for a meeting because they'll make you do something. But when they gave me that job, the first program I thought about was this one. Because, and I want to show of hands in a minute, in 2008, 16 years ago, we had a similar program to this over at the old College Station Center, which no longer exists. And it was Coach R.C. Slocum was there, along with Billy Pickard and John David Crow. And we did a similar program. Does anybody here remember being at that one in 2008? Okay, well, then you're going to hear a lot of new things here today then. That's great. We've got 4 people up here that are going to talk about their memories of Texas A&M athletics, but we've got other folks in the audience that I want to introduce, and I hope I don't forget anybody. Got some, in baseball, former assistant coach to Tom Chandler, Jim Sampson is here. Jim, you can raise your hand. And also, former assistant coach to Mark Johnson is here, Jim Lawler, and his wife Tricia are here. Also, a guy who, well, let me just put it this way. I'll get this out here right from the beginning. I went to college at Texas Tech. Okay, that's great. That's, you know, I'm sorry, I was young, impressionable. It was 1966. I was a freshman. In 1967, I went to a football game at Jones Stadium, Texas A&M playing Texas Tech in 1967. 15 seconds left in the game. Quarterback gets the ball, can't find a receiver, takes off, runs, scores, breaks the Red Raiders' heart. They went on to win the Southwest Conference and beat Alabama in the Cotton Bowl. That quarterback was Ed Hargett. Ned is back there. I saw the run, Ed. I like it now a lot better than I did then, but, and nobody was clipped on the play. I know Red Raider fans say that there was a clip. You tell Pickard that, and I won't tell y'all what he says about that. Also, I guess still our only two-sport All-American, maybe? Is he our only two-sport All-American, I think, in football and in baseball? And academics, that's right, 3-way. Sorry, imagine me forgetting about those academics. Dave Elmendorf. Want to thank the media that are here from KBTX, Daryl Bruffett and Anna Maynard are here. Thank you very much for being here. Daryl, and as I introduce Daryl is not the longest serving media guy here in the room. That would be Robert Cessna, who this year will mark 49 years with the Bryan College Station Eagles. Cease. His probationary period is almost up. I don't think Radar is here yet. He's going to be here. Radar has a paying job over at the junior high school. He said he had class until about 12:15, so I think he's going to be coming in the door. Mike Radar, Ricky. Okay, I want to get Linda Harvell is here, from the City Council of College Station. Thank you, Linda. And okay, I want to get our panelists up here. And also from the City of College Station, Public Information Officer Colin Killian, former Associate Sports Information Director at Texas A&M. I want to get our panelists here, and as I say your name, come on up here and take a seat. And I'll introduce you once you get up here. First off, Alan Cannon. Come on, just take your favorite chair, Alan. Alan is the Associate Athletics Director for Athletics Communication, specializing in football these days. He is the longest currently serving full-time athletic department employee. This summer he will mark 40 years working for the Texas A&M Athletic Department. As he is a 1984 graduate of Texas A&M. And the reason I know that he is 40 years in the athletic department because I hired him in 1984. As it was an easy call. Don't get all excited about that. He was a student assistant already, and it's a long story, but I got him from going back home and going to work for SMU. Right at the last minute, I saved him, and 40 years later, he's still here. Alan is a member of the College Sports Information Directors Association Hall of Fame. He and his wife, Kay, have two daughters, Katie and Macy. So, Alan, welcome.
Thank you, Tom.
You bet. There's a doctor in the house. Dr. John Thornton. John. John is a recently departed director of the Thornton McFerrin, not recently departed, I'm sorry. There was an unfortunate pause there, yes. Unfortunately retired from director of the Thornton McFerrin Coaching Academy. John played basketball for Shelby Metcalf. How many of y'all ever saw John play basketball at G. Raleigh? Look at that, there's all your fans right there, just raise their hand. They're all still alive, that's right, John. So you all probably remember that in 1974, he was the Southwest Conference Newcomer of the Year. Who doesn't remember that, right? He was on the team that won the 1975 Southwest Conference Championship. 10 years an assistant to Shelby Metcalf. Served as Senior Associate Director of Athletics for 12 years. And currently, and for a long time now, has served as the radio analyst for Texas A&M Basketball Radio Network. John's wife is Lanny, and they have children's Gabe and Leslie, and they have 5 grandkids. John Thornton. Coach Mark Johnson. Mark, come on up, have a seat. After serving 3 years as an assistant coach to Tom Chandler, Mark served 21 years as the head baseball coach at Texas A&M, and then followed that 5 years as the head coach of Sam Houston State. He retired with 1,043 career wins. That's pretty outstanding. He was 6 times Coach of the Year, 5-time conference champions. He is in the American Baseball Coaches Association and the Texas Baseball Hall of Fame. He coached the U.S. Pan American team in 1991, and while an assistant at Arizona, they won the national championship in 1976. He was also named the Sporting News National Coach of the Year in 1999. He and his wife, Linda, who is here, Linda Johnson. Welcome, Linda. Sons Ron and Brian, and how many grandkids?
5 grandkids and 1 great-grandmother.
She is great. So now you forget about the grandkids and just say 1 great-grandchild, right? Yeah. Thank you, Mark. And finally, the current 2-time interim athletic director, but you also might remember him as coaching a little football at Texas A&M, R.C. Slocum. R.C., the winningest football coach in A&M history with 123 wins, 14 years as the head football coach, and that followed 16 years as an assistant coach, 9 of those as the defensive coordinator. He went off to Southern Cal for 1 year in 1981, but he got back as soon as he could. And a 2012 inductee to the College Football Hall of Fame, his wife Nell, his children Sean and John Harvey, and together they have 8 grandkids, right? And his biggest accomplishment, and 1 great-grandchild. Okay, see? You just called Mark's bet right there, okay. And his biggest accomplishment is probably most all of you all know, is that he is kicking cancer's butt, so. All right, like I said, back in 2008, we did this with R.C. and Billy Pickard and John David Crow. Of course, Billy and John David aren't with us anymore, but they, along with Charlie Thomas and Shelby Metcalf and Tom Chandler, they're all up there keeping an eye on us. Matter of fact, I guess John David and Shelby are keeping an eye on each other up there, right? Yeah, that's right. So let's get started. I want to just throw this open to you all, and I sort of gave you all a little bit of preparation for this. If you all were writing your autobiographies and you were writing an introduction to that autobiography, a lot of the introductions will start with one key moment in your careers at Texas A&M that maybe stand out the most, and that might be the introduction to your autobiography. Like Al Michaels might write about, do you believe in miracles, such like that. What would be the introduction to your autobiography as it pertains to your career at Texas A&M? I will, John Thornton, I'll put you on the spot first. Go ahead. Somebody had to be first. That's right.
Thanks, Tom.
Yes, yes.
It's going to be, it's hard because, you know, played, coached, and in athletic administration, saw a lot of different things. But the preeminent thing, correct?
Yeah, a little closer to your mouth there.
The preeminent thing would, first of all, coming to Texas A&M, I grew up, well, I was born in Bryan, and all my mom's family lived in Bryan College Station. So when they shut down the Air Force Base, my dad got transferred to Kelly Air Force Base. Then, and long story made shorter, I went to a junior college, always an Aggie, came back, my dad was a yell leader, so I was very familiar with what went on at A&M. But I had to go to junior college first and get better supposedly, and then come to Texas A&M. And to be a part of a team that won the Southwest Conference Championship my senior year was, you add up all those ingredients of family, wanting to be here, and then be captain of a team that won a championship here. It was pretty special. And oh, by the way, we beat Texas on our home floor to win it. And so that wasn't a bad day. So that's what got me started. That's a fond memory that I'll hold close to my heart forever.
AC?
Well, it's got to be second base at Olson Field. My dad brought me down here, freshman orientation, and we go out to the stadium, and Leo Gertz is there. And Leo says, hey, come on, I'll show you around. He knew I wanted to walk on with Coach Chandler and Coach Sampson. And they kept me around a year, but Coach Chandler was smart enough after 1 year, since I was volunteering in sports information with Spec Gammon, he said, Alan, you're okay ball player, but this sports information business might make a nice career for you. And I give him all the credit for saying, hey, you've reached your peak athletically. And only the way that Coach Chandler would do it, but I give him all the credit. But then in 1990 at second base, I proposed to my wife. She accepted, and we're 33 years going strong, trying to follow in footsteps of these guys.
That's a great story. Mark Johnson.
Well, me,
Pull the mic up there, Mark. There you go.
for me, to get to go out on the field and represent you all in the stands as a coach and all of those things, I needed people with me, but the thing that came to me when John mentioned it to me was that I had brought God with me on the field. And that made all the difference in the world for me.
Coach?
Well, first of all, thank all of you. I got so many cards and texts and calls when I was going through that horrible chemo thing and fighting cancer and didn't know if I was going to be around. But thanks to all of that and so many prayers, I'm here, still going. I think the Lord's still gotten something else. He needed assistant interim AD, I guess, for the Aggies anyway. But anyway, it's really hard. That's a hard question you asked, but I've told people, I said, Coach, people ask this all, what's your favorite game, your biggest win? And I said, well, the game that stands out in my mind the most is the '99 bonfire game. And it wasn't a all giddy kind of thing. It was just something that we all, if you lived here, you experienced that along with us. But to go through that, and I felt more pressure. We just had to win that game. I didn't tell the players that. I told them that we owed it to those young people who lost their lives working on that bond. We owed it to them to go out and give our absolute best. But I didn't want to put the pressure on them if they had to win the game. They'd already had enough pressure that week. But that whole experience, people in here from all over the world, interviewing anybody they could find to interview, and to go through that and that game and just the whole week leading up to it, there were thoughts about not playing the game. And I called our president, Ray Bowen at the time, and I said, I just want to weigh in. I know this decision will be made at a much higher level than me, but I want to weigh in with what's happened for these kids to all scatter and go home and be away from each other. I said, I think they would draw strength for us to have the game and have our fans and have our students here. I think we should play this game. And I was really pleased when they decided to go ahead and have it. And I'm so thankful today. Still, every year when it comes up, I'm so thankful we won that game. I don't think I could think about it if we hadn't won the game. So anyway, that's the singular moment in my career. If you said name one thing that stands out, it was that week and a half, 2 weeks there. I got a call early the morning that the bonfire following when it had fallen. Dave South called me about 6 o'clock, and I was getting ready, fixing to walk out to go to work. He said, the bonfire fell. I said, really? Well, and he said, it's bad. So I got straight on up to school, and we ended up taking a team over there, and the team helped move logs with the rest of the students. And that was a special moment. The student body probably has never been that closely connected in history of that morning when all those students with the football players were pulling those logs off that bonfire.
I think everybody remembers that, where they were when it fell, and remembers being at that game and the end of it for sure. Want to make sure I ask John Thornton, because you can't get away without this. If you can pick one, what's your favorite Shelby story, John?
Oh my
Just
God.
pick one. What's the one that gets the most laughs when you're speaking to people?
I can't pick one. I mean, there's
I'm
different
sorry.
settings.
We got an hour. You can only do one.
There's different settings that I could tell a lot of them, but
Well,
this
yeah,
isn't one
eliminate
of
the
them.
ones you can't tell and go with, yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, that's pressure there.
Yeah.
Here's just kind of an insight. There's so many stories. It's just like a little anecdotal deal. And I played for him and I coached with him for 10 years, and we're around each other all the time. You travel recruiting with teams and all that kind of stuff. And his little one-liners were what was so good. And he'd philosophically tell me important things like, he said, the longer you stay at a school, you start looking like the mascot. He looked like an Aggie. He really did. Jim Killingsworth looked like a horned frog, you know. Don Nodal looked like an owl. And it made sense to me.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. AC, I was counting yesterday, and if I wanted to ask you, were you a student assistant when Tom Wilson was still coaching, or were you here yet?
Yes,
you were.
Coach Wilson was a coach when I got here.
Okay, then that makes you have worked with 8 football coaches now, 8 or 9 athletic directors, 8 basketball coaches. What's the secret to somebody hanging around 40 years dealing as a conduit between all of those coaches, all of those players, and the media? What's the secret?
They're very blessed. There's a higher power, but I give credit to my parents, my grandparents, that told me, whatever you do in life, do it with passion, treat people right, and just work hard. My dad was a grinder. He worked 50 years with Kroger Company. And so I've still got at least 10 more years to go.
Well, that was a sweet answer, AC, but it really was. But there's got to be a story that sort of fits in that gap between one you can't tell and one you can tell. Can you find a particular funny story that'll make these people laugh?
Well, I really can't, other than the fact.
Yeah, you can. Go ahead.
No, when you consider, okay, I'll just take you through it with Coach Chandler saying, hey, we need a baseball SID. We need, back in the day, no calculators or anything, so you figure up the averages by hand. But do your job. And then Coach Metcalf says, hey, we'd like AC to come along. And meanwhile, always helping out with football, so Coach Slocum would know that some assistants running around here, but then all of a sudden he gets the head coaching job in '89, and he puts up with me as the football SID. And so through the years, just doing your job, no matter who is in that role, and being true to Texas A&M, being true to the core principles of Texas A&M.
I'd like to add something. First of all, he consummate professional, and in that job, handling media, crisis, good and bad, things going on like that. This guy's always been a rock star. It's steady, and I think all these coaches will agree with me. No panic ever, in some very delicate situations. He was always a class act, and you could always go to him in complete trust, and because he'd deliver, but he'd also be discreet about your feelings, other people's feelings, and just be a pro. So he's a stud.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, John. Well, I can add to that because in my 3.5 years as sports information director, it was a delicate time because we were, during that period of time, the athletic director and head football coach was Coach Sherrill, and we had a controversial, if you could say, quarterback named Kevin Murray. And we had the Dallas Morning News, and we had WFAA and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and that was a lot of juggling to keep going. And I remember one time, AC, I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was a particularly stressful time in the office with whatever was going on. And I walked into AC's office and I said, AC, this is right in the middle of the day, like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And we were both really busy. I said, AC, let's go bowling. You remember that? You remember that? Yes, I did. I did. I said, let's go bowling.
Sounds good to me.
And we walked. Well, no, I remember that because you looked at me kind of crazy, like, don't we have work to do? There's a football game coming up. And we walked across the street and because there were bowling alleys right there in the basement, right? Okay. And we went across the street and we bowled a couple of frames. So sometimes you got to just sort of let loose. I don't know, did Jackie ever ask you all to go bowling, Coach, in the middle of the season?
No.
No, didn't happen? Well, it would have relieved tension, I can tell you that.
He might have gone bowling.
Mark, talk about your favorite memories of your 21 years of coaching, baseball, the World Series championships, the people that you coach, the fine young men, your assistants. Just sort of, can you wrap up 21 years in 60 seconds? Yeah.
I had some really great moments that I'll never forget, except if I'm talking to a group, I might miss a name or two. But I think one of them, and it might surprise the sports information people here, when we beat Clemson to go to the World Series, it was the first time in my career that we got to win on the field a championship of that manner. Even at Arizona, we weren't on the field when we won the championship to go and then to win in Omaha. So, but I remember the Clemson game. We got into the final game in winner take all to Omaha, and we got ourselves got behind and got a run behind, and everybody was, it was a packed house, and we come up in the ninth inning, and I remember a guy we called Screech, our shortstop, Scarborough, and he gets up. He has a seven pitch inning or at bat, and he hits one out. Hadn't hit a home run the whole season, and hits one out to tie the ball game. And I just about went crazy. But that wasn't the end of it. Hudson comes up and hits a line drive to left field, and it's an out. And then we had two or three other guys I would have liked to have seen up, but the guy that came up, Stephen Truitt, he came up and hit the first pitch out of the yard. And wow. We go to Omaha, and the fans, and it just was such a good field, because we played a lot of championship games, and we lost quite a few. And when I first got here, we got to finals and regionals 3 times and didn't win one of those games. And I remember the bad things too, so I won't get on that too long. But to win in front of our crowd was really special for me. I really liked it.
By the way, before I forget, I was remiss in introducing somebody. Debbie Darrow. I'm sorry, Debbie. I forgot to introduce you. Debbie is a long-time member of the Sports Information Department. Matter of fact, she came from the Southwest Conference office, followed me from the Southwest Conference office, and Debbie, welcome to you. I'm sorry. Sitting right there. Also see the current voice of Aggie land, Andrew Monaco, is trying to be sneaky, incognito in the back. Welcome, Andrew. I want to talk about 2 of the folks that are sitting up here, and this is no secret. 2 of the folks that are sitting up here were fired at Texas A&M. You didn't know that? One of them worked for a guy who was fired at Texas A&M. One of them's hung around for 40 years. I resigned probably right before I would have been fired. My question out of all of that is that all of you have come back pretty much, or released the past, released those bad moments to develop a love for your university and have shown it. Where does that come from? Mark, I'll ask you first.
Well, it's originally when it happened, I wasn't planning on staying here. I can promise you that. But God really stepped in. I don't want to get real theological with you, but really calm me down and put it in perspective, where I should be and what I should be doing. I wasn't quite ready to finish, and I didn't want to finish on that note. And so Sam Houston opened up, and so I got to get on that one. But the thing that I always remember about that whole occasion was that we won at Sam Houston out of some games that we should never have won. And we won the championship 3 years in a row. And I wasn't that good of a coach. And so I said, God stepped in and put this thing together. and really rejoiced me and made it good for me. And so that's what I think. So I mean, I love Texas A&M. When we've come back here, we love the church and the people in our church, and we love the community. It's a great community. I tell people all the time, this is a great place. You know, you ought to come. And now, since it looks like I'm going to stay here the whole time, it's getting crowded, so I'm not telling people to come.
RC?
Yeah, I mean, I was very disappointed. I'd worked hard. I took forever. I talked about needing facilities. We'd gotten so far behind in our facilities. Texas had redone theirs twice, and we hadn't done anything. So I took one whole summer. They said we have to get a lead gift, so I went to Bright and asked him for $5 million, which he gave us. And then I spent my vacation time traveling around raising money to build what was the Bright building. I never got to go in the building. I was using it recruiting, and I was having a good recruiting year, and I ended up, the powers that be fired me. And so one time someone told me, said, you know what happens when you have something bad happens to you? Sometimes the human nature is that I'll get that guy if it's the last thing, or you fill yourself up with meanness and poison and all that, and generally you don't even hurt the other person. So what you should do in that thing is just not just if you get in that situation, just turn those people over to the Lord. And if they need to be gotten even with, he can really do it. But don't fill yourself up with, and so I guess at that time there probably were a couple of people I turned over to the Lord. But anyway, but I don't have any. I told my sons, they were really upset. I said, let me tell you something. Texas A&M has been great to us, been great to me personally, been great to our family. Some of my dearest friends for a long time are Aggies. And I knew when I got into coaching, I knew how it worked. Over my career, I've seen so many guys I had great respect for. That Tom Lancher's one that you could name, and you could just go on and on. And I've said many times, if you took the record of the guys that's been fired, our record would be better than the ones that's working. But anyway, so the next morning, the morning after I was fired at A&M, at 7:30 that next morning, Mark White, the former governor of Texas, who was a Baylor graduate, called me and said, we got to get you up to Baylor. We'll pay you more than A&M. And then about 8:30, Drake McClain called me. He was on a business trip in New York. Same thing. Wanted me to go to Baylor. And then I said, you know, the AD called, wanted to come see me that morning, want to have lunch. And then about 10 o'clock, the University of Houston called. I said, and I had to do fast thinking. I said, what am I going to do now? Am I going to go up to Waco, start wearing green and gold, and hang out up there for another 10 years or so, and then retire and live in Waco and hang out with a bunch of Baylor people? That didn't appeal to me, and I had chances. and I'm always glad when I get out of Houston, when I go down there. Sometimes I have to go down there, but I am so relieved when I'm headed back this way out of that traffic. So that didn't appeal to me at all to go to the University of Houston. And then there were some other opportunities. But I said, you know, I've been marooned way too long. And one of the really neat things happened in November. I was honored in a deal in Houston. And at night I had my immediate family there, kids, grandkids, all that. And in that crowd, I'm first generation. I was the first in my family to go to college. And in that picture that night we took, there were 14 A&M degrees represented in that picture with my sons, their spouses, my granddaughters, their spouses, my stepson and his spouse. And so we had all those degrees, everybody getting them in that picture. It's an awesome picture. And so it's all worked out. It's all been great. I think the lesson to that is just take the high road. Take the high road and don't get into, and we all have chances every day. You know, somebody cuts in front of you in the street. When you leave here today, you might have somebody just pull around here. You know, if you're not careful, you'll say bad things. Don't do that. Just say, you know what? Turn them over to the Lord.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. John, you were here in the middle of the season. when Shelby was asked to leave, and you became the interim coach. Matter of fact, you and Coach Slocum are professional interim people.
Yeah, interim means that you're soon going to lose your job.
Exactly. But talk about that training. When it happens in the middle of the season, dealing with players, and you had to do that when Shelby was let go in the middle of the season.
Yeah. And first of all, I owe everything to Shelby. You know, he recruited me, brought me here, played, you know, championship team, graduate assistant for him for 2 years. He helped me get every job I got, high school, junior college, and then back at A&M he hired me. So it was one of those deals that working with him, he was a legend, and as this occupation can do, it takes its toll on you. And the pressures were getting to, they get to anybody. And he went head to head with John David, and you're not going to win athletic director coach fight. And so I get the call to be an interim, and that's a dicey time, right? You're not going to get the job. You're trying to, you know, keep a team together. You're still going to play the games. We had 12 games to play. The reason he got fired, we weren't winning enough. So that's some pressure. It's really one of the toughest things I went through. And then at the end, it's like, I'm 40 years old. What am I going to do now? And got involved in the finals of a couple of jobs and get it. But that's why RC mentioned a little bit is you leave a job the right way. And in the coaching academy, that's one of the tenets that I talk about. Because in coaching, you're going to leave a job. You know, that's just the nature of the deal. Leave it the right way because you never know. People are watching, seeing what kind of, how classy you are with it, whether you deserve to be mad or vengeful, because you never know what that might bring back to you. And so, very fortunate, supportive wife, family, unbelievable to that time. And then have the opportunity to get started at a very low rung in the athletic department as an administrative assistant to John David, who was the guy that kind of fired us, you know. But handled it, you know, I think we went through those 12 games. I think we were one game below 500, had some real highs and real lows, but it was good. So that ability to survive that episode in a school you love, a school I've grown up with, you know, and then be able to have the opportunities that I've had, it came full circle to me. Faith's a big part of it. And like RC and Mark, I wouldn't change a thing. You know, both of my children married Aggies, both of them graduated here, and if I'd left and gone to some other job, how does that work out, right? So just very blessed, and you know, just as RC taking the higher road in this thing, and that served me well.
One historical tidbit, and I'm sure John can second this. John David and I were close, and he told me on many occasions, he said, "I'll regret that the day I die." Firing Shelby. He looked back and was honest enough with himself that he and Shelby, they shouldn't have had that conversation the day they had it right after that ball game. And both of them probably said things that they regretted. I know John David said, "I shouldn't have done that." And it's hard for John David to say that. But in that case, he said, "I'll go to my grave wishing I hadn't done that."
And you know, if any of y'all have ever been out to the Field of Honor, John David and Shelby are buried only about 50 feet from one another. It's true. Yeah. They really are.
I went out there not too long back when I was sick. I said, "We better get out there and get me a spot." So the sextant fella, a really nice fella out there, so he takes me out. Really, he said, Coach, John David Crow, he's right here. I said, "I don't want to be here. Put me as far as you can. He'll be telling me to get his golf clubs for him or something. You know, I was like his valet. I said, "Put me way over there somewhere."
Oh. AC, you've been around for a lot of these transitions, whether good stories or bad stories, and having to deal with the media through them, and somewhat recently, as a matter of fact, you've had to deal with that. How do you deal with that when the media wants to know everything and you're stuck between honoring their wishes and your university's best interest?
Well, always being a person of integrity, so I'm not going to tell Daryl or Cease any lies. I may tell them I can't tell you right now.
Right.
And they because of our professional relationship, accept that. And that's the same thing. I hate it more than anything when it happens to coaches that I become close to who are family to me, and then being told, we're letting this person go. And yeah, I would like to stand on the desk and say, you're making a great big mistake. But at the time, if this is what Texas A&M wants to do, we're going to handle it professionally, just making sure that, here again, take the high road on everything. I don't want to hear any stories about, well, this coach did this or did. No, it's not that way. That when it comes down to it, and trust me, I've seen it go from, in my opinion, a family business where we could all go to Wally Groff's house and the entire athletic department can be there. And we're breaking bread and it's family business. Well, now you look at our stadiums, you look at this campus, it's a business. And I hate to say it, but it's a win-loss business. And if we don't win enough, then people get let go. So I hate it because literally these guys, these three gentlemen have put up with me, basketball, baseball, football, and down many roads, and yet, other than my family, they're as close as, they are my family.
Exactly. Very good, very good. We're going to be, I'm going to ask another question or two of the guys here, but I want you all to be thinking of questions because I'm going to come out in the audience with this wireless and let you all ask questions because I bet you all have a few. And Ed and Dave and Coach Jim and Coach Jim, if you all have anything you're thinking, boy, if I was on that panel, I'd say this right now. Think about that and raise your hand if you all, anything that you want to add. I was talking to Mark on the phone yesterday, and I asked him this question, so he's got a little bit of a head start on this, so I'll ask him first so the other three can be thinking about it. I've always thought that the coaches and the programs at Texas A&M, and I'm sure that this is similar at other universities, but I've always thought the coaches and the programs and the players have always intermingled well, have always been close, had respect for the other program. At least back in the day, that was the case. And I was talking to Mark about this, and I asked him, I said, why is this? Why do you think that respect and knowledge? And Mark came up with the perfect answer, and something that unfortunately really doesn't exist anymore. Mark, tell him about the facility that you mentioned that really brought that about.
Well, we had a great relationship in those years because of Kane Hall. It had food in it. And so it had great food, not average food, it was great food. And so we would all go over there, and everybody was allowed to get in there of the coaching staff and our athletes, and we would talk. I would talk to the football coaches and, tell them they need more trick plays or something like that. But and then they would have some important person, some big name person come in, and one time Nolan Ryan came and John almost broke his neck coming to sit next to me, and I hadn't sat next. Am I right? But the one thing that I really enjoyed, and I won't say it was administrative type, but with every coach that they hired at Texas A&M, they were good people, and that I saw. Everything I saw was good, and we had a great relationship to the other coaches, and they're busy just like we are. We're gone at nighttime, and you come in early in the morning, and everybody, they understand what we've been going through, and so it's an easy talk, and so I think that relationship really was good. But it usually was centered around Kane Hall. That's because we'd all go over there. Now the coaches, we have no place to go. They do have a place, but they have their own offices that have the weight room, have the locker rooms and stuff, and they're just isolated, and I hate that. I hate that we're isolated so much, but it's good. I mean, it certainly is efficient, but from a personality thing of our group, as we get together, man, that was fun. We can tell stories because we're not going to go anywhere. And so we all had good stories to tell, so everybody would gather around, so it's good.
Yeah, I don't know how many of y'all ever had the pleasure to eat at Kane Hall, but Mert Davidson ran the best restaurant in town, bar none. There was no doubt about it. And Mark's right. I would go to work early just to go over there and eat breakfast because that's how I got to know the swim team. The swim team was always there because they had already worked out before breakfast. So that's sort of take that ball and run with it, Coach, sort of the importance of Kane Hall and everybody getting together back in the day. Coach Slocum? You. Yeah, about Kane Hall.
Well, it's probably better for all of us that we don't go to Kane Hall. That was a hard deal to go there, but Mert, the key to that whole thing was Mert Davidson was such a wonderful lady, and our players loved her. She knew their birthdays. She'd make birthday cakes, and she made it feel like home, and she made the whole place special. And the ladies that she hired to work with her, a lot of students worked with her, and it was a special place to go. We would have with the Thanksgiving game coming up, not going to be Thanksgiving this year, but we would have our Thanksgiving meal over there at Kane Hall, and she would really fix it up. Even on the times that we were playing at home, we would have the players' families come in and eat. We'd all have Thanksgiving meal together, and so it was a special place.
John?
Yeah, what I would say, just to add on to that, was it's a different day and time, right? It just is. It was smaller, but still big, and it was first class, but for that time period. But we got to know one another as coaches. I dare say that coaches don't interact anywhere close to what we did. We broke bread. RC'd come in there, Mark would come in, we'd sit down and talk. Only the way that people that are making their livings coaching could talk about things. So it was a great opportunity. We became friends, big time friends. Our athletes interchanged, which now they all live off campus and they eat different meal plans or whatever. Back then we all ate at the same time. Baseball guys used to fill up the end zone at G. Raleigh White. They beat everybody to get there because they loved it and they were great sports. But that interaction with all sports was so cool. One example about how we got together, I remember going over, just knowing RC, knowing his staffs, Mark, Jim, everybody, but I remember my office was in G. Raleigh White back then. It was really plush, let me tell you. And it's kind of like the SID's office. It was great, wasn't it? But I remember we were getting ready to play Arkansas, and they were loaded, and Mark, he won't remember this, but he came over, I think Jim was with him, he came over, and I had a blackboard in my office, old blackboard, chalkboard, and he drew up a bunch of plays on it when I wasn't there. Use these tonight, But that's the relationship that we had, and we pulled for one another. Football, everything, baseball, everything, because we knew one another, and we knew everybody's families. We grew up together.
I may add to that because it's important. That relationship that we had belonged just to the coaches. So it was special because we all had the same problems, and you all see, man, that'd be nice to be a coach out there, and they're having fun and a hero, but it's not always that way as a coach. And so, you get I can tell you some names I've been called that you'd be embarrassed for me to say it. But that's the way it is. And you accept that. But it's fun to be able to talk to people that know exactly if I got beat bad, 10-run rule or something went over there, then the guys are going to come up and say the umpire screwed the game or something. But so that relationship's important because they know what everybody's going through that are coaching.
In the room, before AC became the longest current athletic department employee, the longest serving one was Mike Radar Rickey, and Radar is in the room here. Hello, Mike. There he is. Radar, but between me getting here and there, can you think of your favorite Shelby story? That you can tell? Well, you weren't here for John's Shelby story, and maybe you won't tell the same one, but surely you've been asked. So, what's one of your favorite Shelby stories? Mike is, if you don't know, if you've never watched basketball on TV, men's, women's basketball, he's the guy on the end of the bench right there. And talk about your favorite memory of Shelby.
We went out to Tech, and the weather was really bad. We'd won the game. You know, we were in those. I said, "Hey, Killer, what's up, buddy?" I said, "Call him." And my old roommate sitting up there, AC could tell a few too, and those guys could tell a few. Anyway, the weather's bad. We're in those school planes, 8-seater and 6-seater, and we're in that little private airport. You look up on the wall, and I'm no meteorologist, but green is rain, okay? So the wall is solid green. There's lightning, there's thunder, and then you see patches of red and yellow. That is not a good sign. So I go over to Shelby and I said, "Hey, Coach, we got a problem." He goes, "What's wrong?" You know how you talk. I say, Coach, we can't take off." "Well, call the guys over here. I'll talk to them." So he brings them over and he says, "Men, we got some weather issues according to radar, and if you look at the radar, it doesn't look good. But we're going to send the first plane up, see if it makes it. Me and Radar are going to stay here." And those guys looked at me. I go, "Guys, he's kidding. Y'all go sit down. We're going to wait a little while."
I knew you had one. Okay. Okay. Dave, Ed, you got any rebuttal? Anything? Come on. Anything? Well, Ed, come on. Stand up, Ed. You want? Go ahead. How about that 15-yard run?
It was speed all the way, but they said there was a clip. There was not a clip, as you said. There was a penalty. Texas Tech was offsides. I knew it, so I had a free play, so I didn't have to worry about whether I scored or not. We were going to get another one. But they claimed all these years a clip. Well, y'all had the penalty. We declined, took the touchdown, and the game was over.
Elmo? No. Got nothing. Oh my, all of those years. Andrew, you got anything on Elmo? Yeah. You know? How about that? Linda, you got anything on Mark? Yeah. How much time do we have, right? Jim, you don't want to? Come on, Lawler. You got some stories.
I can't tell them here.
Any questions from any of y'all? Go ahead. Raise your hand. Somebody's got to be first. There we go.
Jim was going to.
Who was?
Jim.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I forgot it now.
You forgot. That'll get worse before it gets better. I promise. Try to think of it. I'll be back. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Stand up.
Hi, coaches. Hi, AC. Just wanted to ask you, if you were coaching today, how do you feel about this transfer portal?
Go ahead.
I guess Coach Slocum or Johnson.
It's pretty easy, I think. If you look at the NFL, they have salary cap, and they're moving.
Microphone, yeah.
The NFL has salary cap. They give each team the exact same amount of money, and they can divide it up however they want to, but they all have the same amount. And then the movement, your kid signs a contract, and typically a 4-year contract, and he plays those 4. If he wants to go all the way down to the end of that contract, then he can become a free agent. The team has the ability, and I think it's one person, but they can have a restricted guy. They can say, "This is our quarterback," or whatever. He can test the market, and I think they have to pay him the average of the top 3 offers that he gets, and the team can keep him. So you don't have, and so we've got NFL type things going on with the money. We have no rules though. I mean, it's a huge thing that's going on right now. I was in a meeting this past week with our general counsel, and I said, having grown up on the Gulf Coast, I've got a lot of experience with storms. People say, "Man, storm's coming." "Oh, really? How big's it going to be?" "I don't know. They say at least a Category 3, maybe a Category 5. I can tell you right now, in college athletics, we got a Category 5 headed our way right now. And, I don't know I don't have all the answers how it's going to work out, but there are people smarter than I am that can see all the different dynamics that we have in terms of revenue share. There are court cases, all kinds of court cases. There's one just recently, Dartmouth, a court back east ruled that their football players are really employees because they're determining what their hours and when they have to show up and all that. So I was in a meeting again this week, and legal people made this statement. So if that's true at Dartmouth, it's probably true at A&M. And if it's true of A&M's football players and athletes, it's probably true of the Corps Cadets. So behind all of this there's a strong effort by unions to unionize all the athletes in college athletics. So, I mean, stuff like that is going on daily. Now, there are cases out there right now. One particular case said that going back 10 years, all those kids that were denied their NIL, that they were entitled to that. It's a class action suit to go back 10 years, and all those kids should be able to. So, yeah, it's just crazy, you know. So anyway, we'll survive it. They'll work it out. But right now, it's got everybody in the industry very concerned about where this thing will end up. And so if you were to take, you saw a week or so ago, the SEC and the Big Ten have formed a study group among the presidents and ADs and the conference commissioners to study this whole thing. So who knows what'll come out of all of that, you know. But one of the great things for us is that several years ago we made the decision to go to the SEC. So whatever happens, we will be with the movers and shakers. We'll be in the good part of it, regardless of what happens. So A&M's in a good position from that regard.
I'll say from baseball, baseball hates it. It's not a good rule. It's a group of people got together in about a week, put out some rules, and that's about what it came down to, because they haven't make no sense, and the integrity of competition is lost in every one of those rules. So you know, it just is. It's amazing that a group of people could come up with that, and it's getting shuffled around now, and it's getting fixed, and they're going to have to start all over. So we're going to have another mess as we do that, get that set up. But you know, I don't enjoy watching people that are making millions of dollars play college sports. It just takes it away from me, what I expected. So anyway, it is being addressed by the coaches now. They didn't do it with the coaches earlier on, and they missed it. And so hopefully they'll get it and take care of it.
And the big losers in the whole thing, in my opinion, will be the players. 18, 19-year-old kid with a pocket full of money is a recipe for trouble. Okay, especially when he hasn't really put in the time to earn that money. And you could argue, well, he plays football. Well, that's true. But when I was 19, I wasn't ready to have a whole bunch of money. I was earning that money in the summer working in the bottom of those ships down there in Orange. And I knew every penny where it came from. $2.08 an hour, $2 an hour, 8 cents for shift differential. And I knew when I got to college, if I go out and have a good time for 2 or 3 nights there, and I'd be broke the rest of the semester. So I learned how to manage that money. And now you got kids just, you know, I mean, unbelievable, some of the numbers. It will all come out soon, but you'll be shocked to see what some of these kids are being paid to play.
One of the things I would add to that is, and this is too simple, but not having an opportunity to sit to be eligible has killed it. Because if you can leave in a heartbeat and go someplace and be automatically eligible, that's not any good. I mean, that's just flying around. When you see people or players have played in 4 schools, you know, how does that work, right? And then one thing that I've talked with some athletes about, and especially those that have already graduated, who are you going to be affiliated with when you're through playing? Oh, well, I was at Tech, I was at A&M, I was at New Mexico, you know, and at some point in your life, where you graduated from college or where you played is going to mean something to you. It might not now, but to be affiliated with an institution is something you're going to miss out on. Nobody wants to hear that, but that's something.
You'll have 2 kinds of players in the portal. You'll have the one disgruntled guy, so they're not using me right, I'm not getting enough carries, I don't like the way the coach talks to me. Coach is trying to make you better, son. But anyway, that guy will be in the portal, looking for a better, easier place. He's not going to find it, probably. The other guy will be a guy who just had a great season. He said, man, I go in that portal and somebody else may pay me more for what I'm doing. So either one of those are bad, you know. And where's the loyalty to Texas A&M? And your friends and whatever. So I contend there's not a coach I've met, and I know a bunch of coaches. I see them and talk to them. Not a one of them likes what's going on. They can't say it publicly because they got to get guys out of the portal. But if you ask them, they don't like that at all. Managing the locker room and trying to control the constant shift of guys in and out of your program. NFL doesn't do that. You got former NFL players here. They don't let you do it in the NFL. And so anyway, that's enough of that. Y'all.
There's Shelby and John up there on the screen. There, John's saying, "What's he talking about?"
Hey, I got one more thing.
Yes,
There's another picture you had up here a while ago, and it's the 1998 Big 12 championship, and they're holding the trophy up.
Right, it was up just.
So in that locker room, I asked all that, y'all get over here, put your hands up on this trophy. I want y'all to hold it up. So I said, y'all look up. You look on that trophy, you got some black hands up there. You got some black hands that aren't that black. Toya, I'm talking about you. There's some white hands up there. There's some Vietnamese hands up there, that win. Some Isi Hamuli, some Tongan hands up there. I said, this is what happens when all those hands work together. So I was in New York about 3 years ago and did an interview. They were coming up on the 150-year of college football. So I did an interview with ESPN, and they asked me about stories, about the career, and I told them that story. They said, Coach, can we get that picture? I said, yeah, you can get that picture. I'll send you a copy of it. So they ran it, I think it was 3 Thanksgivings ago, they ran it the whole weekend. But I said, that's what we need in our country right now. We need more of those hands all getting on the trophy and say, we're going to all work together and make this thing better and win championships instead of everybody going their own direction. So.
All right. There's old Pickup behind you. I told you he was keeping an eye on us there. There he is, right there. RC, I think when you were talking about NIL and transfer portal, I think what I heard you saying was that AD search committee can't work fast enough. Is that what you're saying?
Hey, all my guys are going to have to give me strokes when I get back out on that golf course. I've had no practice time.
All right, Dave Elmendorf, you thought of something.
Yeah, since we're talking about ancient history, I'm an expert on that regarding Texas A&M. I wanted to talk about my favorite football game observing from the stands or the press box. I've been doing Aggie football on the radio since '89, but my favorite game ever that I witnessed from the stands was as a freshman at Texas A&M in 1967. And back then, freshmen were not eligible to participate in any varsity sports. So we had a freshman team that played 5 games. And the end of the season, back then, A&M always played University of Texas. And that year, Thanksgiving Day, it was at Kyle Field, and as a freshman, I got to watch a phenomenal football game from the north end zone at Kyle Field, and I saw this guy right here lead the team to a victory 10-7 over Texas, and then we went to they went to the Cotton Bowl. So I just wanted to share that. It's so good to be sitting here next to a hero.
Who would have thunk? Right, who would have thunk? Okay, we advertised we'd get you all out of here at 1, and I know the interim athletic director has stuff to do. But I want to introduce Sherry. Where are you? There you are. This is Sherry Frisk. And Sherry, real quickly, tell the folks what you got here so when we break this up, they can come by and look. And tell them who your daddy was.
This is my brother, Dee Smith. He's the namesake of Manning Smith, who was Coach Smitty. He came to A&M with Coach Norton in 1934. And he was a coach for 12 years before he went off in a different path. But he loved A&M big time. And the reason I was anxious for my brother to get here is because this is our dad. The team, the 39 National Championship football team, was treated so wonderfully by all of the athletic department staff, everybody. Every year this team had a reunion, and A&M's athletic department just was so good to them. They always had some kind of gift, and this little thing I've got on was my mother's, and there was a watch or something, so they always treated these guys like gold, and they were. John Kimbrough was one of the ones that was so wonderful and so good. But I wanted to be sure that R.C. Slocum could see these. These pictures were taken. Dad was the youngest coach on the 39 National Championship football team. So when they had their reunion, they were all out there, and Dad was so excited that he got to have a picture with R.C. So we also have something here that the coaches and you all would like to see. This is the 39 National Championship football ring. And this was given to the relatives because so many of them, including our father, had passed away in '92. So this was given around, I believe, 1996. And we're very proud to have this. And when R.C. said he hadn't seen one, we're going to pass this around so you can be sure and see them. But when I tell everybody we bleed maroon in our family, we bleed maroon. My husband and I both graduated from A&M, my brother, and we have some older relatives going back to 1894. So anyway, thank you.
All right. Maybe, Sherry, maybe you can spread those pictures around the table here so people can take a look at them. All right, before we wrap up, Coach Mark Johnson, Coach Mark Johnson has a thing, we'll call it a poem, that maybe some of you have heard. I haven't heard it in a long time, but I'm just going to, I'm not springing this on him. I asked him yesterday, will you do it? He said, yeah, I hadn't done it in a while, but I'll do it. So upon closing, I present Coach Mark Johnson with the ins and outs of baseball. Coach?
Well, it is baseball season. We've had the first week. We're in the second week, and you need to get out to Olson Field. We've got a really good ball club out there, and you'll enjoy being out there. But since you haven't, you get refreshed on some of the rules and stuff. That's what I'm going to do this morning, or at noon here, kind of give you the rules again, so you know what you're doing when you're out at Olson Field. You have 9 guys in and 9 guys out. The guys that are in are trying to stay in so they don't have to go out, and the guys that are out are trying to get the guys that are in out. Now, the first guy that's in, he goes out, and if he makes it out, he comes in. The second guy that's in goes out. If he makes it out, he comes in. The third guy that's in, he goes out. If he makes it out, he has to come in, so his team goes in, and the other team goes out, and it starts all over, and then it goes into 9 innings, and the score's tied, which really makes it an exciting moment of the game. It starts all over with the first guy that's in. He goes out, and if he makes it out, he comes in. Second guy that's in goes out and makes it out, comes in. Third guy that's in, he goes out, and if he makes it out, okay? The bottom half of the inning gets the hit, and if the first 2 guys that are in, if they go out and make it out, they've got to come in. The third guy that's in, he's been watching this from the background. Third guy that's in, he knocks the ball out. And he rounds the bases, and he comes in, and the team that's in comes out, and they put him on the shoulders, and that's the ins and outs of baseball.
Alan Cannon, John Thornton, Coach Mark Johnson, Coach R.C. Slocum. Thank you very much. Thank everybody and the guests.